So the question you might have for me is, how did a Southern woman who grew up in a traditional United Methodist community and who after years finally found Unitarian Universalism end up with a Sufi practice? It's probably not unlike the journey of many of you here. And all I can say is, well, it happened while I was searching and finding and living my life. And it all fits into my commitment to Unitarian Universalism. From adolescence, I've been drawn to mysticism that taught me about my connection to nature and the world. And if you'll see in the material that we have in the order of service, which you might want to take home and read some more, that nature is very connected with Sufism. The writings of the mystics from many traditions have interested me. So as a young person, while I was reading ahead in the Apostles' Creed to make sure I didn't say I believed in the virgin birth, I was also studying, you know, Hildegard of Bingen and John of the Cross and Henry Nouwen and Thomas Merton, all those wonderful Roman Catholic mystics. So go figure. In addition, the more I became fascinated by science, the more I realized how limited my comprehension of the world was. And I longed to make sense of my life in the midst of a creation that was far greater, grander, incomprehensible than I will ever understand. So once I found Unitarian Universalism, it was a breath of fresh air, like it has been for many of us. As I said earlier, I connected deeply with the interdependent web of existence as a radical theological statement about unity. But I wanted and needed more. I wanted to embody my belief in radical universalism in how I practice my spirituality on a daily basis. And I really believe this is a challenge for Unitarian Universalism today because we're non-creedal, we don't have a dogma, and so there's not one practice, spiritual practice, that we can say we're all doing this together, unless it may be some social justice movement. I think as a faith tradition, we need more guidance for members seeking a formal daily spiritual practice. And there are lots of wonderful resources out there. A few years ago, through a friend, I discovered the writings of Neil Douglas Klotz on the Aramaic Lord's Prayer, and that helped me open my mind and heart to new aspects of spiritual practice that fit into Unitarian Universalism. And honestly, it helped me discover a Jesus as a universal teacher who was not the person that I learned about when I was growing up. Slowly, I learned about my Sufi teacher's beliefs. He doesn't proselytize either. And though never planning to become initiated into a Sufi lineage, I finally felt called in that direction. And I know when that little voice starts hammering in my head that that's the direction I need to go. So like many Unitarian Universalists across the country, I've found Sufism to be a powerful spiritual companion to my Unitarian Universalism. And actually, one of my other teachers is a Jewish Sufi. So people come from many traditions. So this aspect of my spiritual exploration has been helpful for my spiritual journey because, quite frankly, I can get caught up in my mind and think things to death. That's probably one of the other reasons Unitarian Universalism fit well for me. But as you may have learned in your life, the mind can be a trickster. It can create distractions and potentialities that don't even exist, thereby keeping us from understanding what's really in our heart and our soul. Our monkey minds can disconnect us from the larger world and put us in a box as we try to control our world and our lives. Now, I'm not saying we need to park our brains somewhere, but what I am saying is we need to understand that part of our personal spiritual work is to find a balance of heart, mind, and spirit so that we can really become fully self-actualized people. So here I am, part of the Ruhaniyat, an international Sufi lineage that was brought to this country in 1910 by Inayat Khan, a very gifted and well-known classical Indian musician. He was sent by his teacher to the West to offer this path of unity within religious thought and to build bridges between the East and West. When he arrived in the United States, there was very little knowledge of the philosophical traditions of the East. Inayat Khan found the warmest welcome among the Unitarians and the Theosophists. So from the very beginning, these teachings have flavored some of our own thinking. The Unitarians invited him to speak, and because we understood that the wisdom of all the world's religious traditions needed to be honored. Though many people think that Sufism is the mystical thread of Islam, many Sufis disagree with that and will say that Sufism existed long before that it was one of the original religious thought paths from the beginning of human history. The word Suf is believed to come from two derivations. First, Suf means wool. So the early Sufis would wear this really rough wool clothing, and they were sort of these wild, crazy mystics and hermits in the desert. So they ended up with the name Sufis. But it's also believed that the word derives from the Arabic meaning of the word safa, which is open or pure-hearted. So Sufis are those people who committed their lives to having a pure heart, to focus their lives on greater understanding of and union with the divine. In his teaching, Hazrat Inayat Khan honored the truth in all religions and often said that when he was in church, he was a Christian. When he was in a synagogue, he was Jewish. And when he was in a mosque, he was Muslim. His student, Samuel Lewis, was a great student of spiritual teachers who in his lifetime became a rabbi, a Buddhist Roshi, and a Sufi teacher. He offered the message of Sufism to many during the 1950s and 60s. He was also the founder of the Dances of Universal Peace, believing that it's very important for us to embody our beliefs and our meditation with simple movements. And the Dances of Universal Peace are simple circle dances based on sacred phrases from many religions and cultural traditions. In the daily practice of the Sufis, one honors the many enlightened teachers who have come into the world drawing on their universal precepts, believing that all of their messages are part of one reality and that our spiritual journey takes us toward the one reality. The daily invocation prayed at the beginning of the prescribed daily prayers is toward the one, the embodiment of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of guidance. Of course, when most people think about Sufis, they think of the whirling dervishes. I will not be doing turning for you today because I have this inner ear issue and I would fall down and throw up, and that's like really not cool in a service. Although, well, anyway, it's not part of my spiritual practice. But I have several friends who choose to turn as part of their daily spiritual practice. Most of my friends who I might have invited to come turn for us today live in other parts of the country. So it's a practice where the movement helps still the mind and keep it focused, keep the mind and the heart focused on unity with the divine. But turning is only one kind of spiritual practice. As I said, there are daily prayers and meditation. Walking meditation focuses on embodying certain spiritual tenets or on the energy of a spiritual teacher from one of the world's faith traditions. So you walk as if you are embodying the Spirit of Jesus, as if you are embodying Moses, as if you are embodying one of the mystics, as if you are embodying the deepest meaning of the heart. And it's I'm just learning this, and it's a very powerful personal experience. There's also a focus on zikr, the chanting of a sacred name or attribute, and wasifa, which we will do in a few minutes, which is the chanting of a sacred phrase. Other aspects include forms of healing work, either praying for the healing that a person needs to receive, or helping people transition peacefully out of this life. And always there is a commitment to focusing the heart on love, harmony, and beauty. When we're able to focus on one of these spiritual practices, we're gradually able to release distractions and remain focused on what is most essential in life. It helps us live with greater intention. How many people in their meditation have ever found themselves distracted? So I often say I'm a lazy mystic because I know that I have to keep drawing my attention back and becoming more focused. Because the more we're able to focus our hearts and minds, the deeper can be our understanding of unity with life's mystery. We see a similar priority in Christianity with the admonition to pray without ceasing, or in the Buddhist focus on mindfulness. For Muslims, this understanding of connection with the divine is seen in the 5 times prayer, 5 times a day prayer. This act of devotion at key points during the day helps remind the believer to return again to mindfulness. And actually, a few years ago, I saw a documentary that was made in France of Aramaic-speaking Christians in Western Turkey, in a very remote part of Turkey, who, it's believed, pray and chant the way Jesus did. And they have a 3 times a day prayer in which they kneel and prostrate themselves as Muslims do. So there now is a theory, because the 3 Abrahamic religions really influenced each other, that perhaps Muhammad saw the Aramaic Christian prayers 3 times a day and adapted it as Islam developed. Religious traditions have practices so that we can remember who and whose we are. Or to quote the great scientist, philosopher, and priest Teilhard de Chardin, we are not physical beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience. We must be recalled to our best selves through acts of remembrance. Often, it's in observing the wonders of nature that we most easily remember our connection to the sacred. As you can see from Hazrat Inayat Khan's Sufi tenets, nature is the truest expression of religion. The basis for our UU belief in environmentalism resides within these tenets. We live and breathe in a sacred reality. And though we are always immersed in love, we are human and our egos get in the way, often blinding us to the sacred unity of all. We forget. Or maybe we're injured by some of the things that have happened in our lives, and we forget that we too are part of love. This understanding of being part of sacred unity brings me to one aspect of the concept of unity that is challenging for me to comprehend, and it pushes us all to a search for greater understanding. And that is, if we believe in unity, if we believe that we are part of one whole, then how can we comprehend evil as well as good as part of that whole? Just as we seek to be healthy in mind, body, and spirit ourselves on a personal level, I believe if we can hold this concept of unity for all of reality, then that's where we're impelled to be involved in social justice, because then we not only are called to heal ourselves, but to heal our world. This, too, is a spiritual articulation of the interdependent web. So I'm going to move forward. I get really carried away when I start thinking about this because it's been such a profound experience for me. Part of the work of those choosing a Unitarian, Universalist, or Sufi practice is how do we deepen our understanding that the web of life contains everything? How do we find connections with those who we consider our enemies, with those who are wounded, for those who need help? This is the foundation of our work for justice. We are part of the heart of the universe, as it is found in the teachings of every great enlightened teacher and found within each of us. So I'd like to invite us to practice a bit of wazifa, the chanting of a sacred phrase. That's going to be our closing hymn. So in the phrase is the word Allah. That may feel uncomfortable or strange for us to be chanting in a Unitarian Universalist congregation, but Allah is simply the Arabic word for God. And if we were Arabic-speaking Christians in the Middle East, we would pray to Allah. We would not pray to God. And I also want to say that the origin of the word Allah is the same root for Allah, which is what Jesus called God, what Aramaic-speaking Christians have called God for centuries. It's also the same root word as Elohim, in the Jewish form, or the Jewish word for God, and also Elat, which is, and I forget whether it's Old Canaanite or Babylonian. I'm not good at those ancient languages. But Allah, Allah, Elohim, Elat, three of those have masculine endings, but Elat is feminine. So we've got the goddess in there as part of that root word. So each of these words calls us to remember that within the unity is a rich diversity, and diversity is part of unity. So we are all, no matter who we are, or what kind of life we've had, or what journey we've taken, we're all part of love. So the first word that we're going to chant is Ishq, which is love. Ishq Allah, God is love. And the rest of the phrase, Ishq Allah Mabud Leila, is a phrase that says God is love, lover, and beloved. This is the heart of Unitarian Universalism. No one is outside. What can you be if you are not love, lover, and beloved? We're all part of the sacred unity. So as we chant, and we'll do it a number of times, let us hold the knowledge that no matter what burdens or joys we bring this morning, it's all part of the sacred embrace. Repeating the phrase over and over provides a space for opening the heart and quieting the mind. As we chant, we might hold the question of how we might live our daily lives if we could only trust that we are, in fact, part of that circle of love, lover, and beloved. As we chant, we might feel our bodies wanting to move a little bit with the rhythm, or not. That's good too. You know, the movement of davening in Jewish tradition is also found in other traditions where a little bit of movement helps us concentrate and focus. So we're relaxed with this. So if you want to move, fine. If you don't want to move, fine. If you want to get up and twirl around, that's good too. But I won't be doing that. So I invite us to join the chant as we feel comfortable. And let's just get comfortable, maybe put our feet on the floor or not. If you can't remember the words, just say la la la. But it's God is love, lover, and beloved. Ishq Allah Mabud Leila. 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 Ishq Allah Mabud Leila.